Hello, my name is Lucy Downs and I am the designer and founder of premium cashmere knitwear brand called Sphere One, which is celebrating 21 years in business this spring-summer 2020. But like a lot of our customers around the world, because of the coronavirus, we are trapped at home. And our thoughts in the Northern Hemisphere anyway turn to spring cleaning, and in particular those cashmere sweaters that we've been wearing over the winter. So I thought it might be helpful to take a couple of short videos and bring you through my best tips and the best way to hand wash your cashmere. And it is better to hand wash it rather than dry clean outside of grease stains or anything that needs professional care. But the best way to look after your cashmere is to frequently hand wash it. So I hope that these little videos help. So first of all, we just lay out the sweater and do a little bit of de-pilling and prep. For the de-pilling, you can use a comb, which is quite specialised for cashmere, but you can also use just a regular safety razor, and sometimes this lint roller type sticky paper is useful for getting them off. So if your sweater is well made, as I say, there shouldn't be much pilling, but you might get a couple of pills on the side, under the arm, or where your handbag rubs. So I can see a couple here. That's it, and then just I roll them off. Or they'll come off in the wash anyway, and we can do this little process at the very end again. You can use lots of products. Something gentle and something natural is the best. I'm going to use Ecover Delicate, but anything that you can find that has this three-sided wool mark icon is perfect for washing cashmere. First thing you should do is actually rinse out the basin, because you don't want any other oils or grease or anything, and you can do it with this detergent. You just need a tiny drop. I'm going to fill a cap for doing the washing, and I'm going to first wash the basin. Especially the plug hole we might forget about. And that's it. And then, with a small amount of the detergent, we will fill about a third of your basin with cold water. Certainly not any warmer than your blood temperature. So that's done. I've got this little cap here, and I'm just going to put a dribble. Set it up. And in goes your cashmere. It's wise when the cashmere knit is full of water and gets heavy not to lift it up too much, because it will strain it. So while it's in the water, don't lift it right out of the water. Just the other thing is never to wring or to rub the cashmere. You just move it around, kind of massaging it. Let the water swish through. Now another thing, while it's wet, I like to put an extra little bit of the detergent on places that might get makeup or sweat or dirt. And again, you never rub, you just ease the product in, massage it in. And I'm going to leave that there, and I'm also going to find the two cups and do the same, because they're always on the desktop, on the keyboard, on the kitchen counters, and I'll just do these two together. And again, I'm not rubbing, I'm just squeezing the detergent into there. And with that, I'm going to leave that to soak for a few minutes. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, not much longer. Particularly with our logo, you don't want the colour of the thread to bleed into the rest of the garment. And 10 minutes is really as much as you'll need. That's actually why I often do 2 or 3 sweaters together. So I will put this one while it's soaking into a large glass bowl, and then I will wash the next one and just alternate them. But for this purpose, I'll just do one. So we come back after 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and the water will be dirty and slightly pearlized. You can see there that it's kind of grey. And as you squeeze the sweater, there should be some bubbles. If there are absolutely no bubbles at all, that means that you really need to give your sweater another first wash, because the soap has really been taken up by all the dirt. So there are a few here, that's fine. I will continue to give it a massage for a couple of minutes, and again concentrate on the neckline, the cuffs, under the arms, just to make sure that all of that soap is out of there. Again, a sort of kneading action is what you do. And then I'm going to drain out that water. Again, one of the key things that you don't want to do is to twist, or else you'll break some of the fibres. So you just want to squeeze some of the water out. And then we're going to give the sweater a couple of rinses. The key here is to have the fibres nice and clean of any soap. Any residue of soap will weigh the cashmere down, and it won't be so light and fluffy. And also, good cashmere never needs any conditioner, because that just weighs down the cashmere. It's lovely and soft and fluffy itself. So I've got cool water running again, and just swish around the sweater. You don't need a huge basin full of water as long as it's nice and clean. It's better to do a couple of rinses with a small amount of fresh water. So again, we're letting the water run through all the fibres. And again, we have a kind of pearlized grey, but slightly clearer this time, and very few bubbles. And you should do 2 to 3 up to 4 rinses to make sure that the water runs really clear, because that's what's going to make your sweater nice and clean and fluffy. a couple of little bubbles there. I'm going to do one more rinse. We come back. I've given it a final rinse and the water is nice and clear. So this time it needed 3 rinses. And once again, without wringing, I'm just going to squeeze the water, most of the water out of the garment. I'm just squeezing out enough to bring it to the washing machine, where I'm just going to put it into the machine for a spin. The washing machine here is under the stairs, so I'll show you in detail. I'm going to put the wet, washed, rinsed garment into the washing machine just for a spin only. This is the washing machine here, and most washing machines, modern ones, have a cycle that is either spin only or this one is drain and spin. So you shake out the garment so it's not too squashed. Shake out your garment a little, throw it into the machine. I would normally be doing 2 or 3 in a scarf at the same time, and excuse me, this one takes 8 minutes and it's at 1300 rounds per second. You can adjust it, but in my experience the regular cashmere can handle the spin because the drum is just extruding the water out of the sweater. The sweater is just stuck to the side, it's not being rubbed or moved, and that's what causes felting. So I'll start that and come back. Now I've taken it out of the machine, and really it's as light as a feather, and it's really soft, and it's got that little fluffy edge to it. It's crumpled, it feels damp, but it doesn't, it feels really light, as if it's almost back to the weight when you were wearing it. And now what I will do is hang it up and just stretch it out a little bit. I'm doing it here on the counter just because that's where the video camera is. We at Sphere One use these rubber spoon-ended hangers, or I have this nice, a few of these old squidgy rubber, plasticky rubber ones. So if you have any soft hangers, that's great to let it dry on, because you don't want something hard that it's going to leave too many marks. So I'm going to hang it like this and hang it up from one of the handles in the kitchen here. But basically, as it's hanging, I want to just ease out the sweater. I'm pushing against the 2 side seams like that, and as it's hanging as well, I will put my hand into the sleeve, putting my little finger against the seam, and just pull the sleeve out nice and straight. You're not doing anything too harsh or aggressive, but just easing the sweater out into its shape. And especially any what we call linking seams, where the garment has been sewn together essentially, just ease out those seams because you don't want them to be taut. And again, if the sweater is well made, using 2-ply yarn, it should retain its structure and the straight side seams. If it's a cheaper yarn and it's only 1-ply, it is inclined to spiral, like sometimes you find that with a t-shirt. But here, the seams should be nice and straight. Ease out the colour, and then I'm going to hang that up. And within a few hours, or certainly overnight, it'll be dry and ready to wear. But you might want to give it a little puff of steam just to get any last creases out, so I'll show you that next. By the next day, your sweater will have dried by hanging overnight, and it's lovely and light and soft, and it smells delicious. Don't be alarmed when you've washed it or you take it out of that spin if it smells a bit like a wet dog. It's just because it's a natural fibre, and that will go as it dries. I've left mine hanging overnight from a cupboard handle. You can leave it hanging off a rack or any handle, just don't leave it in direct sunlight like a conservatory. The pale colours of cashmere can get a suntan, and our lovely bright pinks and oranges can bleach, so you don't want that to happen on a shoulder or on a section of the garment. So it's ready to wear now, but there's one final step that will just really make it perfect, and that's to give it a puff of steam to get out any last creases, and to just tone down any of that fluffiness that's come up on the surface. So I lay it out on the ironing board, and as I said before, you can at this stage, if you see any pills, have another go with your razor and lint roller, and just check for any pilling inside. If you always wear a handbag on your left side and it's rubbing, you can get pills on the inside of the sweater as well, and that actually makes the garment more uncomfortable to wear than if they're just on the outside. So I'm going to give it a puff of steam. I'm going to lay it out, and with the iron, it is most important not to press the iron down onto the sweater, but just to hover above the sweater and puff your steam. So like this, and then just ease out. You can, what I do is touch the left-hand side of the hot plate, just touch it on the surface of the cashmere to keep it at a level while I'm puffing the steam out. In particular, if there are any ribs on your sweater, the collar, the cuffs and the hem, they will be inclined to contract back while the sweater is wet, and so they will kind of create a bit of creasing around there. So I'm going to steam like this. You can steam while the garment is still hanging by just, pushing the steam iron, puffing that way, but this gives you a bit more control here. And as I say, I've said before, in order to straighten out your sleeve, a good idea is to put your little finger on this seam, stretch out your hand, and then just draw it out, and that'll give you a nice, bring your sleeve back to its shape. And then straighten out the side seam. Puff, puff, puff. So having washed it, as I said, the cashmere fluffiness will come to the surface, and if you look at it at the edge, you'll see a lot of fluffiness here. The purpose, one of the purposes of this steaming is A, to get rid of any creases, but B, to just calm those fluffy edges so that your sweater is nice and drapey to wear. You want it to be fluid rather than felted. So that's where the steaming and all the stretching you've done comes to fruition. And now your Sphere 1 sweater is as beautiful as it was when you first received it. Thanks, bye.